Hey everybody, welcome to the third episode of the Crittercast. Tonight we have Tony Seiler on tonight. He works with a variety of reptiles. He has a bunch of pets, and he also is a veterinary assistant, works at a zoo, and some other stuff that we're going to get into. So everybody, welcome him to the stream. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thank you for having me, Harry.
Yeah. Um, yeah. How's your day? How's everything going with COVID and everything over there?
Uh, Everything's peachy with COVID, just still wearing masks all the time, and everybody's hopefully be getting their shots and
Yeah.
vaccines and everything. So hopefully we can just get past this virus. It's definitely a big drag.
How are like the cases and like lockdowns and stuff around you? Or is it like bad at all or
The county that I live in, Franklin County, basically in Louisville, Kentucky, it's actually one of the hot spots of Kentucky because Louisville is the biggest city in the state. So we
nice?
do have a lot of cases, and just because it's a nice condensed metropolitan area. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't really been following the numbers in the past couple weeks, but I believe everybody's been sticking more inside because of the cold weather right now. So since it is like snowing hardcore out there right now in our location.
Nice. Yeah, how do you like we don't get like I obviously I'm in Canada, but we don't get like a ton of snow where we are. How do you keep like the reptiles warm? Is there anything you do, like any heaters or anything you have extra in the room?
So the room that I'm in right now is basically the washroom. We have the washer and dryer in here, but I do have a nice like tower heater. It's directly about 10 feet behind me that keeps the room, and in here it's probably around 75 to 78 degrees right now. So it's very nice and
Okay.
comfortable at the moment.
Yeah. The opposite of outside.
Yes, yes.
So, did you grow up in Kentucky then, or you grew up somewhere else?
No, I'm actually originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I've lived, born and raised there up until when I moved to Louisville about almost about a year and a half ago now. So
Okay.
pursuing more animal related field or ecological conservation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just more of a career base that Cincinnati in like my hometown just couldn't offer. And I kind of am one of those more free spirited people, and I didn't really want to, long term end up in my hometown. I like to travel, like to meet, see new things, meet new people. So
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Um, did you, as a kid, did you grow up with a lot of animals in Cincinnati then, or like how did you kind of get into animals as a kid and stuff?
we've always had a family dog, maybe a cat as well, growing up. And never had anything crazy, no exotics or anything like that. My parents are pretty straightforward, uh, normal, middle class people. Love them to death, definitely. They definitely got me and my two younger brothers very much experienced in basically anything out there. My mom really likes science and like sci-fi and stuff like that. So I mean, and my dad's a teacher himself, so we always had a lot of just education, a lot of experience. So we go to museums a lot, and we watch a lot of like nature documentaries or the Animal Planet channel, and just that kind of stuff. So I've always grown up liking animals. I like just other like critters and stuff like that. I've never had any fear toward any of them, so it's just kind of piques my interest more into like misunderstood animals. Like I really like sharks. I really liked spiders all the way growing up. I really loved wolves all my life, and reading a bunch of little books, pictures, information, that kind of stuff, little like children's educational books, stuff like that. So I've been in the reptile world for near 10 years now, and actually that started because a friend of mine in college a few years into college, posted a picture of this baby corn snake on Facebook, and she said that she was selling it. And I'm like, that thing's adorable. I need to have it. So I convinced my parents if I kept my grades up, I could get this corn snake. So I've had
Okay,
snakes ever since.
but your parents let you get a snake then, like when you were a
Y-
kid then.
Reluctantly, yes. I was around
Okay.
20 or 21 years old, yeah.
Okay. So you weren't like a kid then, but yeah, okay. Fair enough.
No, no, no.
Yeah, but still, in your parents' house, under their roof. So
Exactly.
a
They
lot of
were
us,
really, yeah, they were real wild about it, but
yeah. Because like I think most people in the reptile industry like have to have moved out before they were allowed snakes, you know?
this is very true.
I think like I would say at least 50% of people, if not more. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um okay, so then from like the time you get that first corn snake, when did it kind of grow to like your second to third? Because I know you have a lot now,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah, not as much as I've had in the past, but I do have about a dozen different reptiles. And ever since the first corn snake, a second corn snake came along, and then I was like, I want to check out lizards. So then leopard geckos, and then from there, I bought a Savannah monitor, kind of at a whim, didn't do a whole lot of research, realized that they need a really big enclosure. So by then, it had been a couple years into the reptile stuff, and at that point, I was actually did move out, and I built a large, like 6 foot by 4 by 4 enclosure for my Savannah monitor because they need a large room. So then came, tegus and different types of snakes and different types of lizards and other types of geckos. I've had at least 20 different species of reptiles in my care at some point or another.
Wow. So yeah, I guess we'll get into that later, but you really diversify. You don't like to stick with like one species.
Mm-mm. I like to learn as much as I can with the husbandry and a
Okay.
plethora of reptiles. So I
Yeah.
definitely learned a lot in the past.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And then like growing up as you became an adult, was there any like schooling for veterinary or anything that you did? Or anything like
No,
that?
my schooling, so I went to college, kind of jumped around different majors, didn't really know what I wanted to do per se.
Hmm.
So I did end up finally finishing with an environmental science degree. My focus was more on ecological conservation. So,
Yes.
save the trees, save the fauna, all these other ways you can kind of recycle, do renewable resourcing, renewable energy, that kind of stuff. Um, and I had a minor in geography and I mean my education is very broad. I studied anything from renewable resourcing to biology, did some chemistry. I was not good at chemistry, and and um, conservation, just everywhere basically.
Yeah.
So I just kind of landed. Like I needed a job when I moved down to Louisville. A job that I was planning on getting as I moved down here fell through. It was actually an ecological restoration project based job.
Okay.
So that would have been taking like basically water runoff areas that are maybe muddy or gross or maybe just unappealing to the eye, and maybe digging that stuff up, making some sort of rocky area with like large water grasses and like a small pond area or something like that.
Almost like landscaping, but on a more bigger scale, kind of.
Right, right. Kind of, it brings a lot of like waterfowl to the area, a lot of frog species, amphibious species, and sometimes some of these areas are big enough that we actually stock like ponds and fish with fish and
Okay.
stuff. But that fell through, just didn't work out,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they just didn't really get the ball going in this city that I live in now. Because there's other locations, but the one in Louisville just didn't work out.
Right.
So I was hurting. I needed a job. Bounced around on a couple things, and then I got hired in at the vet clinic.
Right.
So I do some vet assisting, but I'm mainly a kennel tech. So it's just I work with and help the groomer and boarding and whatnot for the animals.
Okay.
Um, hmm
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, and then from like you moved down there and you got that job as a full time thing, and then um, how did this zoo thing come about?
Right. So, I through one of my volunteering areas, I had a friend who did go to school for zoology. He came down to Louisville for seasonal work with the big cats at the Louisville Zoo down here, and this was a few years ago actually. And then he reached out to me as well as to his boss down there and said, "Hey, I have this friend, me, who is interested in doing the seasonal work," and it's kind of how I got hooked up with it.
Okay.
So the seasonal work would have entailed basically from like March to September, I think, was working with the big cats and the maned wolves, ringtail lemurs. I think those are the main animals in the area that I would have worked. But as I mentioned before we went live, we it fell through due to COVID. Um, Having less people come to the zoo because of all the restrictions, regulations, it just didn't work out, unfortunately, and it's upsetting. It really is because that was a really big jump towards just having a zookeeper job,
Yep.
which didn't work out.
Yeah, and like I mean, that's the thing with COVID. Like everybody had plans. It's like
Hmm.
it just got squashed by everything. Like it literally in a matter of seconds. Like quite honestly,
Yeah.
like I don't know how quick it was for you to find that out. Like how quickly that happened, but I mean, um, like I know Tinley Park, the Reptile Expo,
Hmm.
people were like lined up to set up their tables, and it literally got canceled like the night before,
Yep.
and then yeah, like it's insane.
I was planning on going up to Tinley that year as well, or that month as well.
Yeah, yeah, that sucks. Okay, let's see what other questions I have about like your personal life. Oh yeah, I guess at the vet clinic, do you work with any exotics there? It doesn't sound like you do. It's mainly just like dogs and cats, I guess.
No, we do exotics, yeah. So
Okay.
we'll see small mammals. So like we'll get guinea pigs, hamsters, rats, mice in as well. And then we do have snakes. We do have reptiles come in. So we have a lot of. I'll say we see a decent amount of snakes. We see a decent amount of like water tortoises. So like the sliders. And every once in a while we'll get a sulcata tortoise. Nothing big. They're probably young, maybe a year or two old at that point. And we get birds too, but I'm not a big fan of birds because beaks. I don't like
Yeah.
beaks, but
Yeah. Well, they can be nice. Some birds. It depends
some
what bird.
birds definitely can be nice. Most are not nice in my experience.
Yeah. Okay, and then like I think this happened pretty recently. So you got a new girlfriend?
Yes, yes, yes. I've been. She's actually from my hometown, so she's actually from Cincinnati. So
Okay.
the distance between my hometown and my town now is just an hour and a half. So it's really not that bad of a drive. I drive all the time anyway, so just adding an extra little bits.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, we started officially dating beginning of December, but we had talked for a couple months before that, just kind of get it to know each other.
Nice. Yeah. Is she into like reptiles at all or anything? Or
She likes all the reptile and stuff. She's just not a big
nice.
fan of spiders.
Yeah.
Not a
Okay.
big
Fair
fan of
enough.
spiders.
Yeah.
But I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah. I know how that feels.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's not into spiders either, so it's
No.
like, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Um, so let's kind of move into like about your reptiles because I think that's like mainly why I wanted to bring you on to kind of talk to you about your reptiles
Definitely.
and the wolves, obviously too. I found
Oh
that really
yeah.
cool. Um, so I guess yeah, you kind of explained earlier that you, as a kid, you worked with reptiles, obviously, or like a young adult. But now, what species are you working with, and like how many animals do you have?
So I have 12 reptiles right now. I'll go from like my large lizards. I have my Savannah monitor still. She is 6. I have an Argentine black and white tegu. She'll be 2 in May. I have a Colombian black and white tegu or a gold tegu. He is around 4.5, 5 years old. And then I have 2 bearded dragons. Those are I have a leopard gecko. That was another recent. And then I have six different snakes, four different species. So my big snake is my Colombian red-tailed boa, my boa constrictor. I have two ball pythons. I have two Dumerils boas, which are juveniles, and then I have a black rat snake or an eastern rat snake.
Okay, cool. Just a variety of stuff.
They
And
do.
I guess, like you were saying earlier, you kind of like learning about their care and everything. I guess
hmm
that's the main reason you got into reptiles. Like, or like, what was kind of the main reason? Like, obviously you liked them, but what intrigued you the most about them? I guess.
I guess one of the biggest things about reptiles that intrigued me is the fact that they're misunderstood for the
Mm,
most part. They're not the fuzzy, cute, cuddly animals that the general populace really aim to own. So I like
mm,
to kind of educate people, especially with snakes, because it seems like there's always a lot of people that just don't like snakes.
yeah.
That they're not slimy. They're not gonna bite you at any moment. They're I mean they could, but they're not going
Yeah.
to if you handle them correctly. And just kind of it's the education, it's getting all that information that I've obtained and sending it out to other people, and then seeing how people then learn and they enjoy what they learn, and then they might even look into owning or even working with those animals and on their own. And
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the biggest things that really is it's wholesome in my experience with other reptiles is just kind of educating.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. And then like previously, you said you've had quite a few reptiles like in the past, obviously.
hmm
So I'm guessing you've rehomed some like over the years and stuff. What
Yes, yeah.
what is kind of like the story with that? Like, you just like wanted to move on to different species, or
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there have been instances where I've done trades in the past. I've had Abronias or Abora alligator lizards.
cool.
I've had those in the past. They're really cool. Not as much of a handleable lizard, and I like to be able to handle my reptiles and kind of show people, up close up, how cool they are. So, I've done some trades with those guys with like red eye crocodile skinks. I've rehomed a lot of leopard geckos in the past because I wanted to move on to bigger lizards. So, like my Savannah monitor and my tegus and everything, I wanted to work with them more. And then I've fostered some as well. So I've fostered a handful of bearded dragons. I've fostered for several months a Euromastix, and I've fostered a couple tortoises in the past. And those are for people if they had to move home and their parents didn't want them, or if they just needed to hide them from the girlfriend for a little bit, or just something crazy.
Yeah. Well, like, cause well, we haven't got kicked out yet or anything, but I feel like we might get evicted, so that's why we've been looking for the new place. Hopefully, we have this place, but
Yeah,
like, I totally know because it could just happen. Like, it just, you know, and yeah, and I mean, the housing market around us is insane. Like, it's insane to find a pet friendly place, so it's really
yeah.
hard. But yeah, it's crappy for a lot of people. Like, yeah. Have you got any like rehomes that are like really sick or anything like that you've had to do a lot of work on, or?
In the past, I've had a number of leopard geckos come in pretty emaciated or injured, some with like tail rot or like tail necrosis, and I've had to do minor surgery, snip the tail and watch it and wait for it to heal, and just some that were just very, very, very malnourished. So those have been some of my worst cases. I've had a few bearded dragons with maybe messed up tails or messed up arms or something like that that I've got vet care, and then I've nursed them back to health and I've rehomed since, and a couple snakes that have come in that were pretty rough to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, snakes are well, any reptile is really resilient, but I think
hmm
snakes, depending on what species, but they're resilient. Like it's,
They are.
but people do just like let them go. Like to get a snake to the point of scale rot or something is that's yeah.
It's impressive. It really is to have that bad of husbandry or care for a reptile to get it that bad. And if you don't mean it, then they just don't understand they need to get like vet care for it. It's like,
Mm,
yeah, something's not right about the snake. You should probably get to see a vet.
yeah, literally. Yeah. even because my girlfriend, she works at a vet clinic as well,
Hmm.
and there's times customers they'll come in and they will like have a reptile, and then uh, they want to get care or something, and that person tells them like, oh, it's $100, $200. I'm like, oh no, I don't have the money for that, and then they just leave, and it's like, really,
They
like,
surrender it. Yeah, we've had that often.
yeah. Yeah, and that sucks too. Or yeah, or they surrender. I know they've had people who they'll try and take it home. Obviously, sometimes they're not allowed, but it sucks.
Hmm.
Um, is there do you do anything with your like reptiles like business wise? Like, are you planning on breeding, or do you do any like sort of education or anything like that?
I do education on a few platforms like my TikTok and my Instagram. Just kind of show that that they're not monsters, that they're really cool animals, stuff like that. I do some posts that talks about like diets and some husbandry stuff. More so, not I'm always open for like direct messages if people have questions about like bearded dragons or this type of snake or that type of snake. Um, I do have an Etsy, so I do some reptile shed skin jewelry pendant making. It's just kind of a side gig that I'm learning still how to do all the crafty stuff. And my two Dumerals boas, I am actually looking into breeding them when they become mature enough, probably in 2.5, 3 years. But
Nice.
they're juveniles right now. My female is 2.5, my male's a year and a half old, so they're still itty bitty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you buy those ever? Uh, like, did you buy any of your animals specifically for a breeding project? Like, did you buy those specifically because you wanted to breed, or just because you wanted like those specific snakes as a pet?
No, actually, both of those Dumeral boas were gifts to me. Like
Okay,
they
nice.
were just given to me. One of the veterinarians at the clinic I work at, she and her husband or fiance, almost husband, they did in the past a lot of snake breeding on their own ball pythons, and they just had Dumerals, and they're like, "Hey, I'm trying to get rid of this. You want it?" I was like, "I'll take it. Yeah, I love Dumerals." 'Cause I've never had one before, and I'm like, oh, a new snake species. I'd love to learn more about it. And then the male was another gift from just somebody else who just kind of was like, hey, you have one Doomerol. Do you like Doomerals? Here's a Doomerol. And they gave it to me, and I'm like, okay. Uh, so
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take it. Free snakes.
Yeah. Well, at least you're not overloaded, because I know there's people who do that and then they just like hoard them, and it's like, uh, but you're not. I thought you had more than that. You said 12, 12, right?
12 reptiles altogether, then yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what do you have any? You have dogs, but what else do you have other than reptiles?
So yeah, I just got like my personal dog. She's a case, her own case. My brother also has a dog here as well. And then I have two tarantulas. One's an ivory ornamental and one's a Chilean tarantula. And then I have a baby emperor scorpion, a juvenile emperor scorpion. He actually just shed, so he's like a lot bigger than expected now.
Yeah,
And I have some Madagascar hissing cockroaches, which are super cool. And then I have like dubia roaches for, feeding.
yeah, cool. Um, your tarantula, how big is it? Because I just got rehomed, or not rehomed, but someone rehomed to me their full-grown emperor. I wonder what the size comparison is. It's
For
interesting.
your emperor scorpion, you mean?
Yeah, because mine's like huge. Like, it's like probably the size of my hand. Like, I think it's obviously full grown, but
Yeah. Mine is, I mean, size of your thumb at the moment. Like you could fit
okay,
comfortably on the thumb, just like right there.
interesting.
Yeah.
Which is a
I mean,
little baby then.
yeah. He may be maybe a year, year and a half old at this
Okay,
point now.
yeah,
He's still a little baby.
interesting. What's he feeding on? Just like small crickets and stuff?
Yeah. He actually is eating large crickets now. I actually fed him earlier today.
Wow, crazy.
I kind of like, take the cricket and I kind of just crush the head with a little forceps so it like doesn't fight, right? And then I give it to him and he grabbed it and he's like, "Oh, nice." Grabs like a little burger. It's so funny. I love watching him eat.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They're so cool. Like, I used to have a scorpion and a tarantula as well, and like even just the way they drink water and stuff. Like, they're
It's
little.
wild.
I don't know, forceps or whatever. I don't know what they are,
The
but
pedipalps, yeah,
yeah,
the little
yeah,
things that come out here, and yeah, it's crazy looking to watch them, maneuver those things around.
yeah. No, for sure. Are you doing any? Because I know you have a lot of monitors, right? You have four monitors.
Well, I just have the Savannah monitor.
Oh, well, okay, like tagus
Oh,
though, right?
Tigers, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So tagus and monitors between the how many of those do you have?
Three of those right now.
Okay. And are you doing any like training at all with them or anything like that? Because I know that's a very popular thing right now to be doing. You know.
In the past, I have point. I target trained my Savannah monitor. She's quite smart. I just haven't worked with her in maybe about a year or so now with that point training. I'd like to get back into it. And then the other two, the Tegus, my male Colombian Tegu is not nice. So he's not one I'll be able to train at all. He's very tail whippy and he very little tolerates when I handle him for like 30 seconds and then he try to alligator roll and try to get away and I'm like whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but my Argentine Tegu, I want to start working with when it starts getting a little bit warmer outside and a little more time on my hands.
Yeah. Fair enough. Interesting. Is there any reptiles in the past that you've like trained or anything like that, or done anything like that with?
In a sense, my snakes right now are hook trained, and
Okay.
that's basically just to differentiate between feeding and handling times. So when I use the snake hook. So when I want to handle them, I will, they're open their bin or open their enclosure, and I put the hook in, kind of put it on their nose, rub it down their head real quick. They sometimes, the ball pythons especially, they'll kind of like duck their heads because, it's a ball python for you.
Yeah.
And just so they know that it's not feeding time. Because for all my snakes except for the red-tailed boa, they do get fed in their enclosure just to avoid any type of pre-feeding stress or maneuvering, that you don't want to really do with them. But my red-tailed boa, if he would hit me, and he's half hit me before, it wouldn't feel good. So he does get fed in a different tub. That's his feeding tub.
Hmm. Interesting. All right. Um, and your ball pythons, like, are they both normals or?
I have one normal, that's Hydra, and then I have a Mimosa morph. It's a hypo
Yes.
Mimosa, I
That's the
believe.
one that was in that photo, right?
It's yeah, the like white one. Then he's got like a yellow streak down his spine. Yeah, that's Voodoo.
Awesome. Yeah. And no, yeah, no plans on bringing ball pythons in the future.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
I just want to get my hand in like breeding like one time, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
The Doomerals would be really cool to breed because they're a
Yeah.
large species. They're not well in the market really. I'm like, I could maybe even sell the babies depending on if I get babies, kind of thing in the
Yeah.
future. So, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, a little
Well,
money
that's the
and a little
thing. Like
experience.
rare species like that too, like are they can be a little bit hard to sell, I think sometimes, but there's definitely a market for them because there's not a lot of people around, right? So
Exactly, yeah.
it's yeah. Okay. And then because I know I was talking to you over text about this, I think that you aren't using your grow tents anymore, right?
Correct, yes.
So I found that really interesting that you were using grow tents to house your Savannah monitor and your tigers, right?
Hmm.
So how'd that kind of work out for humidity and just like housing in general? Did you ever have them escape or any issues?
My Argentine Tegu had escaped one time.
Okay.
Um, so like how the grow tents are made is that they have these openings in them. So they're like just for anybody that doesn't know what they are, you buy them on Amazon, and they're primarily to grow plants indoors.
Yeah.
Um, and people in the herpetological field and the reptile field have retrofitted them, basically put them standing upright, putting them sideways, and then having them basically you build an enclosure inside of them for reptiles.
Yeah.
And they're really cool and they hold humidity amazing. They're meant to because of plants and everything like that. And they're really good for maybe like short to mid-term housing if you like live in an apartment like I did in the past before you make your bigger like maybe wooden enclosures like I have over here. So They hold humidity well. If you if you make them up well enough, they keep the animals inside. But
Yeah.
there's certain areas where like wires are supposed to go in, or like a hosing system for like your plants,
Mm.
and that's where like you pinch them shut by like that string and like pinchy thing. I don't know what they're called. Um,
Mouse traps?
yeah, yeah. And sometimes my tegu would scrape enough and actually get those open and escape. So I basically just in my old reptile room, I'd open the door and she'd be like in the floor, like ah, look at me like, oh God, I got caught. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Uh,
So I had to go get her and fix it up and toss her back in. But
that's when you make the
um,
TikTok video.
yeah, exactly, exactly. If I ever get them escaping again,
Yeah.
um,
But
I
yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, I mean, they're not really meant for reptiles, so
Exactly. They're good. You can make them amazingly for certain types of reptiles, especially if you do reptiles that don't need a whole lot of substrate. So like maybe like iguanas or the tegus. But like the savanna monitors, they are a burrowing species, so she has a more dirt than the average enclosure would
right,
have.
makes sense. Did you have to do any modifications, like supporting or anything for the grow tent, or it was pretty much just set it up and throw the animal in there, kind of?
Pretty much just set up. The big thing that I thought would made it easier was I actually like taped up a tarp on the inside, so at the bottom, up the sides as much as I could,
Yeah,
and then so like it would hold the dirt easier,
yeah,
and it wouldn't get in all the little nooks and crannies, like where the bars are inside the grow tent and everything. Makes
mm,
cleaning up a little bit easier.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I find that like especially for big species, like big tanks are either really expensive to buy or pretty intense to make. So,
Yeah.
I don't know how much time you spent on your enclosures, but they look like they're pretty well built. So I'm sure you spent quite a bit of time on them.
Yeah, my wooden ones I built before, like I built a few weeks before I actually moved into the house here. I mean, probably collectively, maybe around $150 in supplies. That comes with the nails, 2x4s, plywood, and that kind of stuff. But it's just the manpowers, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at I've always been kind of good at building things, kind of like by the seat of my pants, basically. So that's kind
Yeah.
of what I did, and I kind of understood like supports, how it needs to be set up to support, weight of other things and everything like that. So
Hmm.
it actually was a lot of fun making them.
Yeah.
Time consuming, but a lot of fun.
Are they like, do you have like a glass front or like a acrylic front, or is it like mesh?
Right now, the fronts are just plexiglass.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's still sick. That's awesome though.
yeah,
That's so sick. Um, yeah. Do you do any of your tanks bioactive? And like, what are your kind of thoughts on that? And maybe also, I don't want to be controversial, but like your thoughts on like tubs versus tanks, and I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
on that, not a whole lot of thought. I do some like half biodiverse or bioactive.
Yeah.
I guess my bigger tanks that have like my tegus and my monitor, I do have like a number of isopods in them. In the past, I haven't brought in any new types of isopods as detrivores or anything like that into my enclosures yet, because I haven't been able to find any of them because there's been no expos, right? Because of COVID.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Right. So. Actually, my brother, one of the science labs, they have a plethora of isopods and roly polies, and I'm like, you just now told me this. Can you get me some next time you're at school? And he was there today, but I think he forgot again. So,
Hopefully they have rubber duckies or something like
yeah,
expensive.
exactly. But yeah, so I want to integrate the isopods back into their enclosures. It breaks down all the fecal matter and all that kind of old stuff, and it makes it so like it just stays clean, basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. And like most of your animals are housed in tanks, right?
I have a handful of tanks, and then I have a handful of enclosures, and then I have like a snake rack as well.
Right. Yeah, for your snakes. That makes sense. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's exactly what I do too. I think you can have both. Like they make sense for some species. Like it's just
Yeah. Yeah, some people, with the snakes and snake racks, some people argue like it's just not enough room. They just don't get the thing. I'm like snakes like it's small anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I don't know how you felt on it. So like some people are so like, oh, tanks only. Like, well, Facebook people, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, yeah. I have no problem with either. Like, do your own thing, whatever works for you. You
I
know?
know. As long as the animals, I mean, as snakes are, they're doing well if they give a nice solid big shed and that they're eating.
Yep.
You know you're doing something right.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people, like in the ball python industry, they don't get clutches or whatever. They're breeding their snakes and they're not getting clutches, and they don't have their standards up enough. Like if your snakes are laying eggs, you're doing something right. They're not gonna lay
Yeah,
eggs if you're not, you know. So
exactly.
yeah, interesting. Um, is there any like, are you super into isopods at all? Like, do you like any sort of species of isopod, like rubber
I
duckies
don't
or anything like that?
I don't know them all that well. I've just kind of got them out of a whim back in the day when I was like, oh, I should really check into, the bioactives. And I talked to some like isopod breeders and like the invert breeders, and they're like, yeah, well, these are good, and these are good, and these are good. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I'll take the cheaper ones for now, and then figure it out. And then, I find out, after a month of putting them in there, and like my Taggy doing his thing and everything like that, that move a little bit of the dirt out of the way, and there's a whole bunch of them. I was like, "Ooh, they're doing really good, I guess."
yeah,
It's kind of nice seeing that.
yeah, for sure. Well, that's the thing, like, because I just sell isopods like on the side or whatever. Like, it's honestly, if anyone's watching this and they want to sell isopods, I would recommend it because it's extra money and it's just like you have a lot of people on Craigslist and stuff. But like you said, there's so many people who come and the people explain like this and this and this and this, and they get so confused. And it's like there's 20 different choices for a little bug, and it's like it's insane. But they, like you said, they breed insane too. Like
Hmm.
you move a little bit of dirt, and there could be like 100 in one spot, and it's like it's crazy.
And yeah, they won't. They breed and they populate to their resources. So if there's, if you're tegu, like say, if you have a large tegu and they big poops here and there, they're gonna eat that and they're gonna breed great. They're
Yeah.
Um, but if you have a smaller lizard in there and you just have a handful of isopods and they just eat here and there, they're not going to breed. It's a resource thing, and that's just kind of how like any type of biological animal is. They're going to breed, they're going to grow to the resources around them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, have you at expo, like you said you've bought isopods in the past from like expos and stuff, I guess, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, have you done like full proper setups with like the bio balls and everything like that,
I
or
have
is it
not.
just like
No.
okay, okay, yeah?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're using them more for like your Savannah monitor and stuff like that, so it's
Yeah.
probably bigger
Yeah.
scale. Yeah,
I'd like to delve a little more into the isopod, the more bioactive stuff eventually. Just I'd like to maybe with that maybe have my collection kind of downsize a little bit so I can then focus on that kind of stuff too.
yeah,
So it may be a little bit down the road before I kind of get more into that stuff.
yeah. Fair enough. Um, have you done? Because there was someone in the comments earlier who mentioned, I think that like he did a education at a career opportunities thing.
Um,
Oh, you spoke at something.
oh yes, that's EB.
I
um, that's a friend of mine. So yeah, I actually had or have a high school friend of mine reach out to me and asked to talk about. It was a career fair. It's a career talk, I guess, for the seventh and eighth graders at the eighth graders at that school,
okay.
and basically I was the animal career guy that came in because they had I mean I think they had a police officer. They may have had like a nurse there. Construction. I don't know exactly. I can't remember all the different other workers, other career people that were there, but I was
Yeah.
like the animal guy. So I did actually brought my Savannah monitor, and I brought two of my snakes, one of my snakes, and a bearded dragon. I can't remember. I brought two or three of my reptiles, and just talked to the kids about what types of jobs are out there in the animal field, and
Yeah.
because it's so broad, you can go into um, biopharmaceuticals, you can go into the zoology, just biology, you can go to research, you can go into conservation, just
Yeah.
rehabilitation. Just it's a huge, just so many things with animals you can go into.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I guess that's the only like speaking event you've done with reptiles or anything.
I've done a couple others. I was a part of a group, the Kentucky Herpetological Society here, and it's based in Louisville. And I actually did my main talk when I was one of their guest speakers was actually about the grow tents actually.
Mm.
Um, Back in the day, it was about a year ago maybe that went down. Um, but yeah, it's just I've talked a few times,
Yeah.
to groups, and it's just at the moment not a whole lot going on in the past
Yeah.
year
No.
because obviously COVID, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another
It's true.
downer to the virus, but
Yeah, and like it sounds like you are pretty busy with work and everything too. Like you don't have a lot of time, you know.
not a whole lot of time with a girlfriend up in Cincinnati still, and my volunteer work with the Wolves every weekend as well.
Right.
I'm pretty much always on the go.
Yeah. 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 Well, speaking of that, let's get into the wolves. Like, how did you get involved in this? It's a wolf sanctuary, right?
Correct, yeah.
So, how did you get involved in that? And like, yeah, just like, how do you even make contacts? Like,
Right. So it is Wolf Creek Habitat and Rescue. It's out in Brookville, Indiana. So the location where the wolves are compared to my hometown was maybe 35, 40 minutes. So I was lucky enough to basically be local to this place. And several years ago, I did interact with them for the first time ever. Met the wolves, met the facility. So um, I mean, you find out about this place mainly from word of mouth. Like we don't really do a lot of advertising. We're on social medias. Most of the time it's people who post their own pictures and video that then people are like, "Where's that at?" And then word of mouth. So about 5 years ago, actually 5 years this month, I interacted the second time, and I fell in love all over again. And I'm like, I have to be part of this. I have to see if I can work with the animals. I can So I asked for a volunteer application, and they took me on, and I've been there ever since basically. So I'm out there if not every week, every other weekend, unless there's like some crazy break or vacation or something like that. But yeah.
and that's just like a 4 hour shift or something.
So yeah, it depends on the time of the year. So summer hours are between 10 to 4. If it's really hot, we tend to close about 2. Winter hours are 11 to 4. Um, just because it stays darker longer in the morning. So yeah, so we are just a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We do rescue for wolves. We don't do rehabbing per se about them. If
Right.
you want to think mainly more of like a social rehabbing, yeah,
Yeah.
because we do take in rescues wolves from other either private ownership or sanctuaries that have shut down or roadside zoos that may have shut down. And sometimes those wolves are a little kind of crazy in the head from their previous place, and they come and kind of decompress and de-stress, and usually they become quite personable in our hands. So we have 38 wolves right now. 8 of those 38 are rescues from their own stories, basically their own backgrounds. So let's say roadside zoos, private ownership, that kind of sort of thing. The other wolves have actually been born and raised with us in captivity. So we've been in the with the pure wolves for maybe about between 15 and 17 years now. We've been up and running for about 21 years fully, and we actually started that rescuing wolf dogs from shelters. And then a handful of years into doing wolf dog rescue, they were able to bring in a pack of pure Arctic wolves, and it's been wolves ever since, technically.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. And then the ones you said that there's been some born there.
Yeah, yeah. So we do have an active breeding program and socialization program. We do not breed every year. We would easily populate the wolves in North America if we did. We are at capacity at the moment. We have a lot of wolves. About 5 years ago, kind of when I started, was the last time that we did a breeding time, and we accidentally doubled our population there.
Jeez.
Our wolves told us basically back then that if they get fed well and taken care of very well, they're going to give us 2 to 3 times the amount of wolves in a normal size litter.
Yeah.
And wolf cubs usually come between 3 and 6 wolves usually. We had one litter that was 11. That was our expected litter. That was the one we really planned on having. And then we had an oopsie litter of 9. And so we 20 wolf cubs born within 5 days of each other. So we low key freaked out.
Yeah.
um, One of those wolf cubs is actually was donated to a facility out in California, and he's doing great out there. And then another wolf cub we lost, after a day or two. It happens, a little runt maybe didn't make it. So those original 18 are with us, thriving very well.
Interesting. And so I guess you can't release any of them back into the wild just because of like social interactions and stuff like that.
Correct, yes. So with our socialization, we create our wolves to be people friendly in a sense that they wouldn't be inherently aggressive because wolves are not aggressive species of animal at all.
Yeah.
They're very non-confrontational. They want nothing to do with us in the wild. They rather turn tail and run the other direction. They know that we mean them harm in the wild.
Yeah.
And they teach generation after generation that mentality. The wolves that are in captivity, like with us, we bottle feed them. We love on them. We give them a lot of attention. We keep them clean. We keep them healthy. And with all that attention, with all that socialization, we make people-friendly wolves in the aspect of that our wolves like to be pet on and to actually give attention and get attention from our guests. So we
Yeah.
do face-to-face interactions with the public at our facility.
Right. So you can get down there and actually like pet a wolf,
Correct, yes. We have
which is
about a dozen wolves that at the moment are in interactive packs that people can it's a donation, it's a fee, just covers basically the food of the wolves, and they can go down there and with a small group right now because of COVID, but there's 2 of us volunteers in each group. We take people in, and you get to face with a wolf. They come up, they lick you, they'll paw at you. You get to pet them, you get to feel them, you get to just see how that how large they are, and just how personable and how just very much just amazing these creatures are.
yeah. It sounds incredible. Like, is there anywhere else in the entire world you can do something like that, or like, do you know of anywhere?
Yeah, yeah. So there are a handful of facilities like us that do face-to-face interactions. It just depends on state codes and regulations on that. Kind of depends on game wardens actually have a bit of a say. State game wardens, stuff like that. There's a couple places down in Florida I know of you can do that, and then there's some places out west in Nevada and California, I believe that allow that as well. Um,
Yeah.
can't remember all the names offhand, but I've networked with a handful of different facilities. If not the facility, then like volunteers at those facilities, and just chat about wolf stuff. Really,
Yeah.
kind of bounce ideas off and whatnot. So it's been awesome making all the connections that I have in all these different states all over the place.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. This whole reptile industry is really like that. Like it's
Hmm.
crazy. Like even in like I don't even really remember how we met. I probably just found you on Instagram or something. But um,
It probably, yeah, just random finds, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, this guy's getting this guy's know what he's doing. Am I following back?
yeah. That and then like it's because I have connections. Same thing. Like all over the U.S. Like the UK. Like overseas. Like it's you meet people all over. It's insane. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I have a
but
number
that
of friends from other countries that do this stuff. If not reptiles, and they do like maybe they do some big cats or they do the wolves, or it's awesome meeting all these people.
yeah. Well, it sounds like there's only like a handful of places though that like do that. So it sounds like you're incredibly lucky you got that chance. Like
Uh,
it's
Definitely am lucky.
Yeah. Um, do how did that facility like come to be? What was the plan at the start? Was it as a like rescue facility from like injured ones or from roadside mainly? Or like obviously it sounds like roadside was the main eventually became the main focus, but um
I believe the owners, Kathy and Terry, probably. I mean, they have a very deep like connection with the native peoples in North America, so they have a lot of connections with the still running like Native American tribes in the country. And so, in that sense, the wolf is a very close, like cousin, a very spiritualistic kind of thing in the Native American world, right? So,
yes.
Kathy was and Ted, they just kind of thought, maybe we can do something about this, maybe help out these wolf dogs, how they started. Um, not be euthanized, and maybe we can give them a second chance in life, and bring them in, and maybe just care for these animals so they can live a happy, healthy, longer life.
Hmm.
And so that they started with rescuing wolf dogs that just kind of needed a place to go here and there. And when you have a facility that grows like that and you network a lot, there's a lot of people that go, hey, I need you to take this wolf and take this wolf dog and da 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 da. I mean, they almost had wolf dogs throwing at them.
Yeah.
And a handful of years in, then they got the pack of Arctic wolves, and actually one of those was a female that was pregnant. So I believe that was like four wolves that turned into eight wolves then, and yeah, basically from there, that was like the first generation of wolves that they had, and they've had young, and then other pure, gray wolves come in, and they do some breeding here and there throughout the years, and yeah, I think they've maybe done anywhere from 6 to 8 different breeding times, in the
Oh,
20-ish years they've been running. So, like I said, we don't breed every year. We don't sell them. We have donated some wolves in the past to other facilities, like one up in Ipswich, Massachusetts, Wolf Hollow. They're amazing up there. Um, and other maybe facilities elsewhere, but we're very picky now because some of those facilities turn out to be not great.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's sad to see, that happen
Well,
too.
even like there's a local zoo near us, and like it was a pretty bad zoo before, and then they recently changed owners, and it's became like a pretty good zoo now. But it's just like there's not really regulations even for zoos. Like there is, but there isn't at the same time, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. But it sounds like it was kind of like a passion project of those two people to like want to start this.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, a passion project, definitely. 'Cause I said they just and Kathy and they're just very lovable people. So they wanted to basically have the animals that they had also kind of reflect that energy, that kindness and everything like that. And that's why they do the socialization, the loving on them, the bringing them up to be then very passionate and lovable to people, which is not what wolves are.
No.
Wolves are very terrified of people in general, especially
Yeah.
ones in the wild. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Um, what would you say is like? I don't know if you have like one of I don't know what the best way to put this is, but like one really memorable experience or a few memorable experiences from working with like wolves. Is there any that are like something that's like amazing that's happened with these wolves, and you're just like, this is one moment that stands out?
There's been a few memories and stuff that definitely have touched me. Mainly when people come and they expect these bloodthirsty beasts
Mm-hmm.
to that want to tear you up and eat you. And they come and actually see how family oriented, how intelligent, how kind these creatures are in general. And their whole outlook, and they came in thinking these are just animals are savage, blah blah blah, and they leave, happily crying. They're like, oh my god, I was so wrong, and you guys are doing a great job. And just getting kind words like that is just always and very very nice and endearing, and learning and knowing that people have learned enough to appreciate these animals in the long run then, and not think that they're, like I said, savage beasts, because they're
Yeah.
not. They're just
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah, and that was my next question too. Is like, what's kind of the biggest misconception that people have? But that's probably the biggest misconception people have is they're these bloodthirsty,
hmm
animals.
Yeah, people think that, these wolves are like 200, 250 pounds, like they're out to eat people, they kill people, they they're bloodthirsty, savage, and I'm just like, well, here's our wolf, over here, and it's like one of our goofy like males like on his back getting belly rubs from another person, like, and I mean some of our larger wolves they're around 145, 150 pounds, like at the moment right now in wintertime because they bulk up a bit, but they're heavy, but they're not giant.
Yeah. Have you ever had any like close calls or any like thing dangerous really happen ever?
Not with me. There was one instance, our only main instance actually. This was a few years before I started. One of our rescues was getting kind of jostled up and by a guy. So like you pet wolves differently than you pet dogs. You treat them differently. You don't really want to get in their face. So you want them to approach you, right, and all that kind of stuff. So this guy kept following one of our rescue wolves, Dakota, around a little bit too much, and kept like taking. You know how dog you jostle their face, their cheeks and whatever, and dogs like that. They think it's fun. Wolves don't really like that. So our Dakota, like, pulled his head away once, and then second time the guy did it, he pulled away and growled, and the third time he kind of like Dakota opened his mouth and kind of just like hit the guy in the face, like with his, his canine teeth just kind of hit like his forehead and maybe his cheekbone or something. So like it broke skin a little bit. So it was like a busy day too, and he's like, I got bit, I got bit, and everybody's like, you got warned, buddy.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
so he actually that same gentleman actually sent a letter to Kathy and Terry maybe about a month later apologizing for everything. So
Wow.
it was actually very nice to see that he knew he was in the wrong kind of thing, and we warned him. The wolf warned him, and things happen, but you heed the warnings of these animals.
Yeah.
And even with us volunteers, we know these guys inside and out. They know us very well. The wolves know us, and and they tell us they're very vocal. They'll tell us exactly how they feel, and if they're not feeling it, they'll give a little growl. They'll snap a teeth. That's like, hey, I'm just not feeling good today. We're like, okay, we'll see you later, kind of thing.
Well, even for that guy, like that animal could have easily turned on him and hurt him a lot worse than it did. And
Exactly.
like even that shows that the animal knows like not to hurt someone, like
hmm
at least to me, that's very clear, I think.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I said, they're non-confrontational. They don't want they wolves are very energy conserving animals. So if it's something that's gonna waste their energy, they're not gonna do it. They're just not gonna do it. They're very
Yeah.
much like cats. They sleep a lot. They're really lazy.
Yeah.
And
Well, any sort of like I guess they're not cats, they're dogs, but um I kind of look at them like a big cat, like
mhm.
some sort of tiger or something like that,
Yeah,
and same
we
thing, and
go
just
ahead.
kind of sit there. Well, they like lions and tigers, they just kind of sit there all day,
It's
So
it's it's very much the same. Like we definitely kind of tell people that our wolves are very much cat-like. They come, they get their lovings when they want it, and after a couple minutes, sometimes they walk away. They're like, "Huh, need to take a breath," and then they'll come back again. They're not like dogs where like pet me until your arm falls off, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, fair enough. And like you said, you pet them kind of differently too. It's not like you're petting a dog on the head.
Right, right. So like with wolves, wolves are very fearful. They're very timid and shy in general. So like reaching over at the top of what you would do with a dog and pat them on the head, wolves go, "What are you doing?" So you want to reach under their chin, scratch their chins, their necks, their chest, armpits. They love their armpits scratched. But yeah, that kind of thing. Go underneath their heads.
Yeah, so I guess they're probably pretty skittish then, like even just with new people around and stuff.
Oh yeah, they're still very skittish animals, just in
Huh,
general. Yeah,
interesting.
you walk on a stick, it snaps. A handful of wolves go, "Wow, what was that?" And they run away real quick.
That's crazy. But yeah, like you say, lots of people just think they are out there to like murder you, and it's Yeah,
Yeah, it's not
crazy.
it's not like that.
Hmm.
It's not like that. I mean, in the contiguous United States, the lower 48, there have been documented in the last 130 years that there have only been two wolf attacks that have ended in fatality for humans. And one of them was a trapped wolf that actually a hunter was trying to bludgeon, and the wolf actually bit the guy in the arm. There's a main artery underneath here, and actually punctured the artery, and the guy actually bled out because he was a couple miles away from home. And another one was, I believe, just a mistake, something to do with a camp trip. That's I think a wolf accidentally got stuck in a tent and like freaked out, and I don't know exactly what that happened, but that again,
Freak accident.
those happened over 50 or 60 years ago last.
Yeah.
Obviously, there have been encounters of wolves in like other campgrounds and stuff. There was recently one, I believe, early last year in Banff National Park on the Canadian side, where a wandering old starving wolf did accidentally wander into a tent, and then again they freak out because the family woke up, and the wolf was trying to jump out of the tent, but like the whole thing crashed down on top of them all. And I believe the guy that was trying to fight the wolf away to get like a bite on the hand because again the wolf was freaking out, and then eventually what the guy got out and ran away.
Yeah.
I think that happened actually early last year. That's
Huh.
something you can actually look up on Google, but
But like
yeah.
if you were in the tent, say, and you unzipped it and tried to let it out, it wouldn't want to try and stay there and bite you. It'd want to run away. It sounds
Oh
like.
yeah, for sure. If they find a way out, they're gonna take it. It's how
Yeah.
it is.
Huh.
They don't wolves don't want our, when you're out hiking. I like to give this scenario when you're out hiking and then camping, you got your tent set up or you're hiking like if there's two scenarios where you have a 100-mile radius that there is a black bear somewhere, and then there's a 10 square mile radius that there's a pack of wolves. I'll take 10 square miles of radius of pack of wolves over the 100 miles that there might be a black bear, because wolves
Hmm.
don't want to eat your pet. They don't want to eat your picnic basket. They're not Yogi Bear. But like the black bear wants to scare campers away to get into your car, your food, your tent. They want that because
Yeah.
that's what they've basically grown accustomed to eating is, picnic baskets.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For sure. That's interesting though. Like I know you've told me that before, but the fact that they'll just like run away and they don't want anything to do
hmm
with you, like
nothing at all.
it's insane, crazy. Anyways, we're almost at an hour. Well, we're over an hour. So, I have one last question that I ask everybody I've had on so far,
Okay.
and so the question is have you had any paranormal or like ghost experiences, or do you believe in that at all, or like UFOs, anything like that?
So I am actually real big on. I love cryptozoology. So I love cryptids. I'm big on the Mothman. I've been out to the Mothman Museum, which is in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and taken selfies with they have like a Mothman statue there too. So I love cryptid stuff. Um, because it's the animal aspect,
Yeah.
El Chupacabra, Bigfoots, Loch Ness, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Paranormal and stuff, I'm on the fence. I'm very much a science-based individual, so that means hypothesis, results, and or evidence. I'm real big on evidence. So yeah, there's a lot of creepy stuff that you can find, and it piques my interest all the time. But
Yeah.
personally, I mean, there's been creepy instances where, like, this is actually just the other night. Me, my brother, and the third roommate, we were upstairs, and our my brother's dog started barking at like the corner of the room, where like we have a little like decorative fireplace. It was a fireplace at one point. It's just decoration now, and we're all like sitting like, "Why are you barking there?" They're like, "Yep, my dog's just sitting there like, what's going on?" Because whatever. Uh, but it was kind of creepy, and
Yeah.
we live. It's a private drive where we live in, and it's
Hmm.
set back away from the road and stuff, and it's quite dark back here. So who knows what happened in this barn before it was refurbished into a house, right? So.
Yeah. Really. So you believe in like Bigfoot and stuff then?
Like I said, evidence.
Okay.
I'd like to want to believe in that stuff. I want to, or at least maybe it happened in the past. Like maybe there were those creatures in the past, and I'd love to find evidence of it. But it's all very interesting. I listen to some uh, podcast. on like Spotify of paranormal stuff and whatnot. So it's all interesting. It's entertainment too.
Yeah, yeah. But nothing personal has happened to you at all,
Not really, no, nothing really.
other than the small
Um,
things like the dog barking or whatever.
yeah, yeah, but just stuff like that. Now, here in my city, Louisville, there is the Waverly Place, Waverly Sanatorium. I think I'm saying that wrong. There is a sanatorium, and it's
Okay.
one of the most haunted places in America. Waverly Hills Sanitarium. That's what it is, and it was like an insane hospital basically. All of those always are haunted, right?
Yeah.
But this one is like there's been shows have been here like Ghost Hunters and they've been here and stuff and my girlfriend has been in the past. Now we're fixing to try to maybe get to check it out maybe March or April ourselves. So maybe
Yeah.
some paranormal stuff then.
Yeah, because I'll finish with this, but because I've seen you and your girlfriend go exploring and stuff to a few
Uh-huh.
like abandoned places. Have you ever had anything happen like during that, or like is there any places you want to go to? Maybe like obviously that place, I guess.
We definitely looking and she's real big on it and like I like doing it but like I'm really like into it more of the urban exploration. She likes abandoned places. I'm like ooh, like I was like hiking in the woods and stuff like that, like the trees outdoors, but I'm like oh, these places are really creepy and they're really cool and I want to see more of it myself too. So
Yeah,
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 we definitely have like a list of certain places local and then we're branching out more and more,
yeah,
um trying to figure out different places to check out.
yeah.
So
It's hard to
can't
find
wait.
places. Me and my
It is.
girlfriend did it too, and like it's there's nowhere. Like these places aren't just listed on Google.
No, they're not. They're not. So we're on some Facebook groups, and the people are like, "Yeah, we found this place," and we're like, "We need the coordinates." And then, but like, people are like, "You're not allowed to put in the coordinates up." We're like, "Ah."
Literally, yeah. Well, just look around. Like Facebook groups are good to start. Like, yeah. I'll send once we're off this podcast. I don't know if you there's a website that has like a database of abandoned places.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but I'll send it to you after the podcast if you haven't
That
heard.
sounds great. Definitely.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's super good having you on. This was super interesting hearing about the wolves and stuff. So
Definitely, I appreciate it. I love these podcasts, and more and more, connectivity from it and all everything. So
yeah,
definitely, thanks
yeah,
for having me on.
yeah. And hopefully when COVID's over, I can come down and visit you and see the wolves because that would be awesome. Like
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd definitely give you a personal tour of the whole place
private
myself.
tour.
Yeah,
Private pets with the wolves. That sounds
definitely.
sounds good. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later, man. You have a
Definitely.
good
Thank
night.
you. You too. Bye bye.
See ya. Bye.